Good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Parshas Veschanan, Shabbos Nachamu, and also to B'Av, Shabbos Nachamu, Veschanan. The Parshas Veschanan is always following Tisha B'Av. That's part of the Seder that we have in the Parshios. Even though seemingly the Haftarah of Nachamu is connected to Tisha B'Av, not so much to Veschanan. In 1991, the Rebbe talks about a very interesting Sikha that Veschanan, the Parsha starts off with Moshe relating to the Jewish people how he davened so many tefillas, Tafkuf tefillas, 500 tefillas to ask Hashem to let him into Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem says, don't stop asking, you're not going in, you're going to see the land, you can't go into the land. Moshe Rabbeinu asks, Eber no ve'era, let me go in and see. And God said, Hashem tells him, you will see, but you won't go in. And we know it's brought down. The Gemara says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu want to go into the land? It wasn't so much to eat the fruit, but it's of course to do the mitzvahs that are connected to the land. But also in Chassidus, and the Rebbe talks about this, the Kliyakar, the Mefarshim, the commentaries on the Chumash brings down, that Moshe Rabbeinu, had he gone into the land, and we spoke about this in years before, that Moshe Rabbeinu would acquire the land in a way that the Jewish people would never sin. There would never be a destruction of the first or second temple. It would be a geula mitzvah shlema. It would be a complete entry to the land that would hasten in the Mashiach and hasten in the era of the Mashiach right away. But instead, the Jewish people went in with Yeshua. They did sin, the destruction of the first and second base of Mikdash. And we're standing here Shabbos Nachamu, and Hashem tells us through the Navi Yeshaya, Nachmu, Nachmu. That's not just that I'm feeling your pain, but we're actually going to rebuild. There's going to be a third base of Mikdash. There's going to be a Kibbutz Galius. We're going to be brought back to the land. There's going to be the Geula Mitzvah Shlema. But Moshe Rabbeinu talks about what he wanted, and Hashem says no. And the idea of Nechama is that don't worry, it's going to be good. So seemingly the message is different. Veschanan talks about the negative, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not allowed into the land, and the Haftarah talks about the positive, what's going to come afterwards. But the Rebbe tries to find what is the message in Veschanan itself, in Moshe Rabbeinu davening to go into the land, that's part of the message of Geula itself. And the Rebbe says a very interesting idea, that we know that in Parshas Veschanan we read the second Aseret Dibros, the second 10 Commandments. And the difference between the first 10 Commandments and the second 10 Commandments is similar to the difference between the first Luchais tablets and the second tablets. The first Luchais were broken. That's when the Bnei Yisrael were on the level of Tzaddikim, and they couldn't stay at that level, so it broke. And then they became the level of Baal Tshuva, and then they had the second Luchais and everything that came with it. And so too, the first Aseret Dibros is represented by the idea of the Jewish people being tzaddikim, and the second Luchais, the second Aseret Dibros, is when we reach a Baal Tshuva and when we build from within. And we know that the crazy idea of tshuva is that a person does tshuva specifically for the negative things that we had in our past and have in our past, is that we connect with the power of our beli gvul, the power of our own infinite, because the ability to do tshuva is God's infinite power of forgiving. Because if a person wrongs, to get full completion of atonement and forgiveness is only from the power of beli gvul. That's the power of tshuva. That's why it says this whole world is about tshuva ma'asim tovim. In the world to come, we don't have the ability to do tshuva. So a person may think that the tshuva is such a powerful thing that a person taps into his or her infinite powers, and it connects with God's infinite powers. It reveals such a deep level of a connection between the Bnei Yisrael and Hashem, that one may think that that's the only way. The only way is to be about tshuva. The only way is to go through struggles. The only way is to make mistakes and rebuild on those mistakes. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need to tell you that if you want to really understand what geula is, what redemption is, it's not that we only celebrate the tshuva, we only celebrate the things that we have to rectify in our past, but we have to know that our inner and our most strong desire, like Moshe Rabbeinu says, let me enter the land, is that we should be a tzaddik. What we want to be is be perfect. What we want to be is to be an excellent yid. What we want to do is never to sin, to never disconnect. But with that, we know that if we do and when we do, we will rebuild, we will come stronger, we will reveal the essence of our soul. But we must put together both, like the 10 Commandments in Yisrael, it says Zachar Shem Shabbos Lakacha. In the second Aseret Dibros says Shamar Shabbos, that we have to have both the Zachar and the Shamar, the broken luchas and the complete luchas are in the Aron together. We have to have that. The real power of Mashiach is that when we understand both the Maila, both the idea of a tzaddik and the idea of a Baal Tshuva, and they come together, that we have from one side of our hearts, but we want to be connected, never want to be disconnected, but nevertheless we're able to reveal the power of Tshuva, the power of the infinite. That's really the idea of Mashiach, and that is the message Moshe starts off with. I wanted to go into land. I wanted there should never be destruction. I wanted this to be Mashiach. But Hashem says that we go that want is important. But we're going to have to go through the idea of Yeshua. We're going to have to go through the idea of Tshuva. We're going to have to go through the idea of return. But the knowledge of the tzaddik and the practice of the Baal Tshuva together is a completion. that hastens in the Mashiach, and may it be speedily in our time. We celebrate together in Yerushalayim Kodesh with the coming of Mashiach. Even before we have to read the Nachamu, which should be a real Nachamu, the Nachamu that of the rebuilding of the third base of Mikdash. Good Shabbos, everyone.